I truly believe that Smile Together and Vet Together are the future of the animal health and dental conference, trade show, whatever you want to call it. Again, there's always going to be larger shows. I don't think we're looking to be the largest show in North America or the world or whatever that is. But we want to be absolutely the most successful show
Yeah.
when it comes to ROI on both sides.
Yep.
For our attendees, it's time management 101. It's being in a room full of your peers that are like-minded, who want to get better as well and want their practices to get better. You get some CE, but that's not what this is built around. This is built around a curated experience for you to go in and get better relationships both with your peers and your vendors. For your vendors, like I said, it's to me, it's a no-brainer. The
Yeah.
investment is a no-brainer. There is a time to get in front of associates. There is a time to get in front of students. There's a time to get in front of staff members. But at the end of the day, we all have a P&L, and we have to get in front of those decision makers. It is not always possible to do that running a route day to day in the field. We're going to give you 2 days where that's all you're doing. So it's funny to watch that, light bulb click when I'm talking to people. It is no, like we're taking this serious. We had them sign a document saying they're the decision maker.
What's going on, everybody? John Stamper with John Stamper Media, and I'm excited to have a conversation today with Ben Pate, who is the Senior Director of Strategic Partnerships at Together Media. So when you hear Together Media, what does that mean? Well, in the dental industry, it means the Smile Together meeting. Last year was their inaugural meeting in New Orleans. It was awesome. I was there, and so that's one part of this umbrella that Ben is a part of. Then, of course, Vet Together is the other side. So, Ben, it is great to have you. How you doing?
Man, John, thanks for having me. Doing great. Glad to be here.
All right, so I thought a great place to start is a little bit of your story, right? Like, let's frame this out, quite honestly, why I believe the Together Media team was so excited to have you. I know when a lot of this was being talked about, Scott had said, hey, like, we think that we have somebody coming here that has done a lot of great things, both in the vet and the dental space,
Yeah.
to be continued. Well, here we are. So, yeah, a little bit about your story.
Yeah, no, thanks. So, I was raised in an animal health household. My dad's a veterinarian, and I kind of grew up as that kid who always called myself the best veterinary tech at 2 a.m. in the morning because I was free. But I grew up, and I kind of said, I went off to college. I studied music. I was never going to work in this industry, and then life has a funny way of bringing you back. And so I started my career in animal health, in distribution, cut my teeth in medical device sales, and moved over to the pharma side, and truly enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Had an opportunity to leave there, got into M&A, buying practices all over the country, which was just a huge experience. Did that for about 3 years. Had the opportunity at that point to shift over in my career to dental, and took over as a general manager back in distribution in the greater Atlanta, Georgia area.
Yep.
And that's about the time where Aaron and Scott, who I had known previously from my animal health days, contacted me about this idea for Smile Together.
Yeah.
And that was a little over a year ago. So it was right after the VMX animal health meeting. They flew up to Atlanta. We met. They kind of rolled it out to me. And very much on the spot, we're like, look, we'd love to have you on the team. And this is kind of the part of the story that I love personally about my Smile Together journey, because it kind of started that night, but it didn't culminate for another year. So I ultimately told him I was happy. I was happy where I was. I wasn't looking to move. And ultimately, I was happy where I was. But the biggest kicker for me is I just couldn't envision this idea of such a wildly different curated conference.
Yeah.
I couldn't see it. And so kudos to Aaron and Scott for following up with me. They got me out to the meeting. I sat on a panel. I got to bring people in my company with me. We exhibited, and then I saw it. It was the electricity in the room, the excitement in the room. It was very intentional, and that was something I hadn't seen at a trade show ever. And I've worked trade shows from coast to coast.
Yeah.
And that time suck that you kind of feel going to these trade shows wasn't there.
Yeah.
People were having genuine conversations, and it clicked, hindsight's 2020, that, oh man, I may have missed a huge opportunity. And so luckily, Scott and Aaron always kept dialogue open with me. The right opportunity came along for me to jump on board, and it was a no-brainer. So 2 months in and having the time of my life.
Well, I think what's interesting about your story and how this has all come together, Ben, is that you mentioned you had some time in the M&A space, so you understood, correct me if I'm wrong, kind of the inner workings of the practice, right? So you can see
Absolutely.
things through the lens of the buyer, right? You're a vet practice, you're a dental practice, you're busy working with your, in the case of vet, your patients, right? Your
Sure.
animals. In the dental side, you're working with your patients, and so one of the things I know that I always loved about where they were going with this and having some dental experience myself was that I always knew that the dental practices and the team wanted to learn about a lot of these newer technologies and products and services. It's just
Right.
time is of the precious, right? And so when you're
That's right.
working with patients, you don't always have that time. And the traditional model that you and I grew up in was the traditional trade show model. And so that's
That's
kind
right.
of what we had. COVID changed a lot of that. And then here we are. But you had the M&A experience, but then you had obviously the just distribution side. So talk about like what really it was that clicked for you. I mean, you talked about the energy obviously in New Orleans last year, but what else? Like when you looked at it, it's okay. Like as you know, you can go to a meeting, you can get motivated, energy can wear off. You go into next
Right.
week, and that's like, how do you keep this going? Which is to know what you're tasked with right now is how do you all keep this going? So, what was it about your deep understanding of both industries that you felt like, okay, this is something that really is going to be valuable for the future?
Well, if you look at it, it's again, we've all grown up in the traditional trade show environment. And it's not, excuse me, it's not throwing shade at that. That's worked for a long time. But I don't know many people that leave a trade show, be it a vendor or an attendee, that leaves just super juiced and amplified. You're usually worn out.
Right.
You're trying to find that next CE meeting. You're scrambling through the trade show floor. Maybe you find that vendor you want to talk to, but you're in line with 10 people deep and you got limited time. And so everything's just rushed and stressed, and that's not an environment anybody looks forward to going to.
Right. Right.
So yeah, seeing it as a vendor, all of a sudden you know every single meeting you're going to have because it's all pre-scheduled. If you want to, you can be in touch with every single meeting you're having before you get there. So you can kind of curate, both as an attendee and as a vendor, it's specifically what you want to talk about. So it's intentional conversations, it's pre-scheduled meetings, and to me, that's the that's the magic potion of all of this. We try to eliminate all the stressors, right? So time, money. We're telling attendees you basically get 6 months worth of meetings
Yeah.
in 2 days.
Yeah.
And then when you leave and go back home, worry about being a dentist, worry
Yeah.
about being a veterinarian. Um, Let us handle your business, pairing you with the right business vendors, and then go do what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and as you know, Ben, when you are, let's say, from a vendor perspective, you're going through that trade show schedule. I
Right.
know I've been there where it's like I felt like there were years where you're kind of just one to the next, and you can tend to go through it in almost like this, like you're driving a car, right? Something that
That's
we
right.
can all do. We don't even have to think about it. And I think one of the biggest takeaways I had from the meeting last year and some of the conversations I had, and I'm curious on your thoughts, is how it's going to flip the preparation for both the companies and the buyers, right?
Sure.
So if you think about the traditional time that you had or lack of time that you had at a booth at a traditional trade show floor, and now in this format, like you all have set up the environment for these meetings to happen. But
Right.
there's other things that I'm excited to happen, which is companies now maybe going back to the drawing board to say, okay, yeah, we're making an investment to be here, but we can plan and we can make sure that knowing what the format is, we can ask the right questions.
That's
Or we
correct.
can have the right information prepared for these practices and these groups so that
Sure.
we can at least make the time worth valuable. And same thing on the buyer side. I mean, I had a chance to speak with some of the advisory board meetings and some of the dentists before last year's meeting. And that's what they were saying, which is I asked them, what would you say to a vendor that was going to come here on like how they could prepare what they're going to present to you? That was a
Right.
great exercise.
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, I think it's all about ROI. Okay. So it's from a vendor standpoint and an attendee standpoint. it's hard to sell ROI in traditional trade shows. Again, it boils down to it's great to have all these people there, but how many conversations on either side are you talking to somebody who's the actual decision maker? Less than 10% probably.
Right, right.
And it's always, let me go back and talk. And do you
Yeah,
ever close that deal? I don't know.
yeah,
I've spent a lot of money on booths, and I can tell you, I don't know if I've ever gotten a true
yeah,
return on that.
yeah,
By the same token, you don't want to not show up,
yep,
right? Because then
yep,
you're the talk of the town. So it's kind of a lose-lose there. What we're doing with these pre-curated meetings is we're removing that. And it's
yeah,
not that we don't want everybody else to be at our meetings. Ours are just it's a niche show, right?
yeah,
For your vendors, you tell me your close rate, I'll tell you your ROI.
yep,
Because at minimum, you're looking at 50 curated meetings that you're going to sit through, up
yeah,
to 150, depending on level you come in at. But the person you're always talking to has yes power,
yep,
right? And that's a huge game changer. For the attendee, it's, how do I get better relationships with my vendors? You're talking to the right person there. You got smarter purchasing power and exposure to new solutions, all while time saving management is key. And that's what we're doing.
So one of the takeaways I had from last year's meeting, and I want to have you share what's in store for 2026 in Las
Sure.
Vegas. I'm excited to hear what you all are planning. But my biggest takeaway was the openness of the leadership team. And again, I worked with mostly the Smile Together side. So I know vet's
Sure.
been a little bit longer, but this was my experience. Is them all being open to wanting to hear from everybody that attended, the buyers, the partners, like what worked, what didn't work, like what can we do better? Like they were into that like right off the bat, which I was very impressed on. And it was encouraging to me because I thought, okay, I think that openness is going to make this even better than what it was last year. So along
Right.
those lines, with the information that was garnered from last year's first event, what are some of the things that you're excited about to talk through of like what people can expect this year?
Sure. Yeah. So to your point, our team, there's no man behind the curtain. Everybody's out front. We want to be visible. We want to take feedback. We're as excited about this as everybody we're doing it with, right? Um, 2026 is going to be awesome. 25 was a taste. We like to give that taste and then bring people back. Last year, dentists saw some of the animal health as they had an actual trade show floor, right? On the Smile Together side, we just had the curated meetings. We did not do a trade show floor last year because it was brand new,
Yeah.
short ramp up time. This year, we're going to be doing that, and I'm really excited about it. So, traditional type trade show floor, but we're going to have these things called activation booths. And so it basically gives our attendees a reason to stay. You're not constantly jockeying back and forth to your hotel room, down the street, whatever. We're going to have everything in that room from golf simulators to a coffee stand to a bar to a massage station, a wellness station. Just the energy in that room is going to be so palpable that I cannot wait to see it.
Yeah. And
And the
then,
nice thing is there'll be no crossover. So you'll have your trade show floor time, and then you'll have your curated meeting time. And you
yeah.
don't have to worry about missing one or the other.
Yeah.
Everything's very curated, very planned out.
Yeah, I think that was some of the conversations I had with the buyers last year as well, whether it be some of the DSOs. Again, was that they learned from every conversation. I think that's
Right.
kind of the organic nature of this meeting. I'm looking forward to what it looks like this year in 26.
Yeah,
Is just that, is that there's this element of just you all are setting up the way I look at it, you're setting up the stage for these successful things to happen. And then the
absolutely.
buyers and the partners, they're the actors in the play, and
That's right.
they're going to do what they're going to do, which I think is most important. I mean, it's one thing for like people like me who've been to meetings for a long time and like you to be really excited about it because we see the vision, we know what
Right.
was and what can be. But then
Yep.
there's the okay, where the rubber meets the road is that once the meetings are set up, and whether it be the buyers or the vendors, what things you've heard specifically from them from last year's meeting that they feel like was beneficial.
Feedback from last year has been great. As a vendor, I can tell you that the meetings were awesome. There was absolutely an ROI. It was exciting to talk to people at all different levels of their career. especially the people that weren't familiar with everybody in the room. I had a client come from Atlanta who was established. He's been around for 20, 25 plus years. He goes to a lot of these meetings. He's one of these kind of rare guys that likes to travel around, go to all the different ones. And his biggest feedback to me was, I had no idea there were all these niche small companies. We know the huge companies. We know the Pattersons, the Shines, the ADEX, the DCIs, the Belmonts, Midmark, whatever it may be, but I didn't realize that there were all these, billing specific companies for dentists or specific dental accounting,
Yeah.
specific lawyers for dentists, all the AI that's coming out. He was blown away at just all the offerings that he had no idea was in the field.
Yeah.
And so to me, this is the perfect place to find that.
Yeah.
And for the vendors, again, they're all ROIs easy to calculate.
Yeah.
You tell me your close rate, I'll tell you what your ROI is.
I think in any industry, when you want to be in discovery mode and you want to learn what's out there, as you know, Ben, you have to be proactive. And let's call it like it is. The busier your life is professionally, Monday through Friday, working through patients, running a dental practice, running a vet clinic, it's not that you don't want to be proactive. I mean, I remember having conversations with companies when I was at Brasseler and we were selling hand pieces, or we would bring something new to the table. And the response I would hear often was, wow, like, man, it would have been great to have, had that 3 months ago when I had this
Sure.
patient that had like a really hard restoration, or any of those types of things. And it just was a recurring theme that I picked up over the years, which is, hey, like, partners and companies, don't get discouraged. I mean, you have a lot of exciting things you can bring to these practices. You just need to be able to spend more time with them. And I think that's really what you're saying, which is that this is not the end all be all, but for so many of these organizations, it's the starting point that in the past,
Absolutely.
many of them never got a chance to even see.
Well, especially with your smaller companies, it's your large companies are known commodities, right? So they're not really getting stuck at that gatekeeper spot.
Right.
They're going to sell their gear no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
It's these smaller niche companies that are newer, bringing in new technology that have a harder time getting in touch and in front of these attendees. And if they get in front of the attendees, are they getting in front of the decision maker, right? And that's key for their ultimately their success and their long-term ROI. Talking with some of these people, it's not funny, but for lack of a better term, it's kind of funny because most people aren't investing into more trade shows, right? So
Right.
they're going, whoa, 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 I don't have to spend this year. And I'm going, you can't afford not to be here this year,
Yeah.
because you're going to all of these other meetings. And again, no shade towards other
Yeah.
meetings. They're fantastic. But if you're looking to truly, you know, get the juice from that squeeze,
Yeah.
we've got to talk to the right people. And the only people at our meeting are people with yes power,
Yeah.
right? So to me, that's invaluable. You can't not afford to be there.
Years ago, Ben, this is a fun story. I was spending time with the CFO when I was at Brasseler, and he had tasked me with doing an analysis of the previous year's trade shows, all the shows that Brasseler went to. Now, here's an interesting thing. You're familiar with Brasseler.
Sure.
Brasseler was one of those companies where I would consider were trade show positive, because that was where the dentist would go and their teams to actually buy stuff. Like, we need more diamond
Right.
burrs, we need carbides, we need polishers, we need endophiles. So it was like that traditional, like, old school bazaar where, like, I'm going to go and actually buy stuff. I wasn't going to, maybe
Sure.
I'd learn about the new things or whatever. So they were a great example, but he had me do an analysis of the previous year of all the shows that we went to, what the cost was at the booth, all the personnel expenses, all the discounts that we gave at the show, because you felt like you had to do a discount, and
That's right.
literally look at, like, the margin of what the
Oh,
company made over the course of the year. And when you do that exercise in mass with a large company that goes to a lot of shows, it's very telling.
that's
But
right.
what's interesting is then he asked me, and you mentioned this earlier, he was like, okay, well, John, like, you can see financially, maybe we could reallocate some of these dollars and do something different, which I think is what you were saying. It's not always like we don't have the money to go to shows. It's that maybe it's a reallocation to a show like
That's
Smile
right.
Together or Vet Together. But he said, what happens if we're not there? Like, what impact does that have?
Sure.
And I think that that's something like you mentioned a lot of companies are going through. And the good news is that this meeting I think doesn't check all the boxes, but sure is checking a lot of boxes that for if a company wants to make sure they're in a room where some of the prominent dental buyers and vet buyers in the industry are going to be.
That's right.
You guys are doing that. So just any final thoughts on that? I thought that was kind of an interesting way to wrap.
No, absolutely. And I love that. I truly believe that Smile Together and Vet Together are the future of the animal health and dental conference, trade show, whatever you want to call it. Again, there's always going to be larger shows. I don't think we're looking to be the largest show in North America or the world or whatever that is. But we want to be absolutely the most successful show
Yeah.
when it comes to ROI on both sides.
Yep.
For our attendees, it's time management 101. It's being in a room full of your peers that are like-minded, who want to get better as well and want their practices to get better. You get some CE, but that's not what this is built around. This is built around a curated experience for you to go in and get better relationships both with your peers and your vendors. For your vendors, like I said, to me, it's a no-brainer. The
Yeah.
investment is a no-brainer. There is a time to get in front of associates. There is a time to get in front of students. There is a time to get in front of staff members. But at the end of the day, we all have a P&L, and we have to get in front of those decision makers. It is not always possible to do that running a route day to day in the field. We're going to give you 2 days where that's all you're doing. So it's funny to watch that, light bulb click when I'm talking to people. It is no, like we're taking this serious. We had them sign a document saying they're the decision maker.
Yeah.
And so it's going, whoa, okay. When's the last time in 2 days you met with 50 to 100
Yeah.
only decision makers?
Yeah. Sign me up.
Um,
Sign me up,
yeah,
baby.
I mean,
Yeah.
again, as far as an ROI positive show, I think this is the future, and I'm so excited to be a part of it.
Well, one last thing. I think that you mentioned the no-brainer for the vendors, and I don't know this for certain. I just know this through conversations I've had with your leadership team and honestly, people in the industry and people that I have known and referred when they've asked me, what about the Smile Together meeting? And I'm like, it's a given. You got to go if you're a partner, right?
Yeah,
So I feel like you guys have made great progress on that side. I know the biggest thing for this is to make sure that in order to be able to execute on the promise for the partners is that the practices are there, right? The buyers are there. So the
that's right.
last thing I wanted to have you share, Ben, which I think is super important, is if you're a practice or a DSO that's watching this, or same thing on the vet and or on the dental side, what are you doing for these practices? I think that's the last thing that is really important that a lot of people may not understand, which is like they still have
Yep,
to decide to make the investment to come here. And yet you all have to kind of make this juggling act work so that both sides are there to make the magic happen. So
that's right.
a great last thing for you to share what you guys have done. What is the model for a buyer to be here? What are you guys doing for them?
That's a great way to close this. So yeah, we've essentially removed every stressor that an attendee could have to attending a meeting. So we call this meeting a hosted buyer conference. And what we mean by that is all of our buyers, attendees that come, we host 100%. So there is no investment into airfare, hotels, meals, and beverages while they're on the trade show floor. All of that's taken care of for them. In fact, we give them extras. They can get an extra night out in Las Vegas. They can get an extra plane ticket for their significant other. They can get a guest badge. They can have an opportunity to win some freebies while they're there. But all of those stressors are removed so they can come to our conference clear-minded, ready to learn, and just have a one-off,
Yeah.
one of one experience. And to me, why not?
Yeah.
Give it a try. If you don't like it, don't come back next year. But I can almost guarantee you're going to love the experience you have. And this is going to be the meeting that you're calling your buddies going, hey, we're going next year. Have you already signed up?
Yeah.
That's what we're looking to do.
That's awesome. Well, Ben, congrats. I'm excited. I was excited when Scott and Aaron told me about you coming on board, and I think your experience. I think it's going to mean a lot to this organization moving forward, and lends a lot of credibility to the street for what you guys are trying to accomplish. So, congrats on that. I'm looking forward to the meeting in October. I'll be there. We want to continue to talk about this up until then to get it as filled as possible for both sides. So, any final thoughts as we wrap? I really appreciate your time today.
I super appreciate you, John. Thanks for getting this out there, helping us. Anybody ever has any questions, I'm sure you can post my
Yeah.
contact information. Our
Yep.
team's always willing to go meet in person. We can jump on a Zoom, whatever's easiest. We're excited about this October in Vegas. Can't wait to see you there and can't wait to see everybody else.
Awesome. Well, Ben, thanks for your time. We will see you in Vegas and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, everybody.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you.